Добрый день, меня зовут Елецкая Анастасия Андреевна, я преподаватель английского языка. Мы заканчиваем нашу лекцию, третьей под темой под названием Social and Ecological Issues. Мы здесь разберем как раз проблемы социальные и экологические, как они друг на друга влияют. Начнем с словаря. Наш вокабуляр на эту тему такой. Carbon dioxide – это углекислый газ, oxygen – кислород, climate change – климатические изменения, ecosystem – звучит как ecosystem, extinct – вымирать, global warming – глобальное потепление, fuel – это топливо, emissions – это выбросы, solar energy или solar power – солнечная энергия, и oil – это нефть. Также есть такие слова. Endangered species – это виды, находящиеся под угрозой. Wildlife – дикие животные, то есть все те, которые не живут в домах или на фермах. Nuclear power – атомная энергия. Deforestation – вырубка лесов. Слово буквально состоит от лесов, избавление от леса. Consumption – потребление. Consumer – потребитель. Эти слова уже даже вошли в профессиональный русский язык для многих менеджеров и маркетологов, и теперь люди говорят о консюмерах и консюмеризм. Pollution – это загрязнение. Recycling – переработка. Eco-friendly – экологичный, буквально дружелюбный к природе. Public transport – общественный транспорт. So, let's first begin talking about recycling, because that is processing of using objects and materials so that they can be used again. About 60% of rubbish from homes and factories contain materials that could be recycled. Recycling saves energy and also it reduces damage to the countryside, which is good. Glass, paper and aluminium cans can all be recycled very easily. Many towns and many countries have special bins, but people can leave their empty bottles and cans for recycling. We have those in Russia, especially in Moscow, everywhere. A lot of paper bags, writing paper, and greeting cards are now produced on recycled paper, as you know. Even more effective than recycling is choosing products that use a minimum of plastic and paper packaging. И отсюда очень хороший вокабуляр – это rubbish, мусор, буквально тот, который лежит где-нибудь на улице. Packaging – это упаковка. To package – упаковывать. Reduce damage – уменьшать урон. So we hear a lot nowadays about recycling. People say recycle newspapers and save a tree, collect bottles and cans so that they can be used in the manufacturing of new products. And that is on the agenda of politicians. That's something that we always read in blogs, and that's what people talk about nowadays a lot because that is an important problem. But we need to inform the public so that everybody can recycle and help this process. For example, let's use paper. The first step is to raise public awareness. То есть нужно ознакомить публику с тем, как нужно все это перерабатывать. About the recycling process. To explain the kinds of materials that can be recycled. Нужно объяснить, какие именно материалы могут перерабатываться. And provide ways on how to properly dispose of them. И предоставить способы того, как мы можем избавляться от этих вещей, куда мы их можем свозить, складывать и выкидывать. Local governments should educate the public on how to properly sort reusable materials. Подобным образованием должно заниматься местное правительство. Then, a system of collecting these sorted materials needs to be organized. And the energy, even from one recycled can, provides enough power to operate a television for 3 hours. Give people information that they can understand, and you will increase the numbers of recycling. Чем больше людей понимают, то как именно все перерабатывается, что именно перерабатывается и что из этого получается. Вот как, например, от одной переработанной банки мы можем получить 3 часа энергии для телевидения, то люди станут этим пользоваться. Отсюда хороший для вас вокабуляр. Manufacture This company manufactures some of the best laptop computers. Эта компания производит одни из лучших ноутбуков. Agenda – это список дел или план действий. Очень хорошее слово. There are several things that we need to discuss on the agenda. Сегодня по плану нам нужно разъяснить несколько вещей. Essential – это очень важно. То же самое, что important. Ну, important – это чуть менее умное слово. Dispose of something – избавляться от чего-то. Please dispose of your trash before you leave the classroom. Пожалуйста, выкиньте весь мусор, не только вы выйдете из классной комнаты. Achieve – достигать чего-то, добиваться чего-то. От этого у нас есть еще слово и achievement. How long do you think it will take your students to achieve their educational goals? Raise awareness – повышать осведомленность. We need to raise awareness for AIDS. Нужно повысить осведомленность о СПИДе. И can, как существительное, это банка или жестянка. We have a shop here that recycles cans and makes new kitchenware. So what are the worldwide ecological issues? There is climate change, there is deforestation, and there is pollution. Let's talk about them. First things first, there is climate change. It's also called global warming, and it refers to the changes in the climate and the rise in average temperatures on Earth. And nowadays, majority of scientists agree that it is happening, and the main cause is from the increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These trap the heat from the sun, which is making the Earth hotter. This is known as the greenhouse effect. Over the last few years, there has been more extreme weather events like floods, droughts, wildfires, and heat waves, which is horrible. Для того, чтобы полностью понять этот отрывок, вам нужен такой вокабуляр. Greenhouse – это парник. Greenhouse effect – парниковый эффект. Heat – жар. Flood – потоп и наводнение. Это слово еще с 90-х хорошо сидит в русском языке, как flood. То, чем мы наводняем те или иные чаты или форумы. Drought – засуха. Wildlife – лесной пожар. Deforestation. Now let's talk about this one. Rainforests and just every kind of forest, they help to control global warming because they absorb carbon dioxide. In recent years, larger areas have been destroyed as trees are cut down for wood or burned to clean the land for farming. The burning releases large amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which is counterproductive. Many rainforests grow on poor soils, so when they are cut down or burned, the soil is washed away in tropical rains, so that the area may turn into a desert. Many plant and animal species that live there can become extinct, and indigenous tribes can lose their homes. И отсюда нужно вспомнить, что rainforest – это тропические леса, soil – это почва, desert – пустыня, есть еще desert, но это уже не то. Indigenous tribes – коренные племена. So speaking about pollution, air pollution and climate change are very closely linked. Often it's the same gases that create the poor air quality in cities, especially which can cause serious health problems for people living in urban areas. Water pollution is a huge problem as well, and unclean water is a major threat to human health. Water pollution happens when dangerous chemicals from factories, farming, and other industries are allowed into rivers, lakes, and oceans and into our water systems. Plastic waste is also a big problem. So, and as well as soil pollution, the use of fertilizer and pesticides can contaminate land and threaten food security. That's nowhere now. So, urban area – это городская местность. Threat – угроза или to threaten кого-нибудь или что-то угрожать. Waste – отходы, также вы знаете как глагол тратить, например, время или деньги. И contaminate – заражать. Which ones of these issues are the biggest for the country that we currently reside in? So what are Russia's environmental issues? One of the biggest ones are water pollution. In less than half of Russia's population, there is, access to safe drinking water. Air quality is almost as poor as water quality, unfortunately, and over 200 cities exceed Russian pollution limits, and it's likely to worsen. Solid waste generation has increased substantially due to adoption of Western-style consumption patterns. And hazardous waste disposal problems are extensive and growing. Nuclear waste and chemical munitions contamination, it's very extensive as well. So, contrary to all of that, we can help the situation, at least a little bit. We have to be eco-friendly, but how can you be eco-friendly? If you don't know where to begin, let's start with some smaller changes. To save money at home and reduce energy use, we can learn how to heat, cool, and light our homes more efficiently. We can cut back on the amount of waste that we produce by limiting plastic in our homes. We can choose sustainable options and plan ahead when our purchasing of things that are normally packaged in plastic. And instead, we can buy them as they are or packaged in paper. We can easily reduce our carbon footprint by only buying things that we need and not the things that we want. So it's very good for budgeting as well. So here are the methods. Method number 1 is lowering your energy and water use. Number 2, cutting back on plastics and waste. Number 3, reducing, repurposing, and recycling. Let's talk about these methods in more detail. So, number 1, lowering your energy and water use. Adjust your thermostat to save on heating and cooling costs. Number 2, replace burned out light bulbs with compact fluorescent bulbs, which is a very good thing to do. Turn off lights and unplug power strips that you are not using. Make your faucets and toilets low flow. Wash your clothes with cold water and line dry them. We can also use public transportation. That costs as lowering our energy and water use as well. We can reduce our gas consumption and carbon emissions by walking, biking, or taking the bus. Keeping cars off the road in congested cities can also improve the air quality. If you do need to drive somewhere, ask friends if they'd like to carpool so fewer cars are on the road. Здесь нам в этом отрывке говорится, что для того, чтобы понизить потребление газа и уменьшить выхлопы, мы можем гулять пешком, мы можем пользоваться велосипедами или общественным транспортом. В густонаселенных ареях, таких как большие города, это может улучшить качество воздуха. Но если нужно куда-то все-таки поехать, то нам текст и вообще логика предлагает такой вариант, как carpooling. Подобные вещи не особо пока существуют в России, но в западных странах, особенно в США, carpool значит, что люди, обычно друзья или соседи, собираются вместе и едут куда-то, например, с утра на работу на одной машине. Какой-то один человек всех развозит. Возможно, на следующий день меняются, возможно, за это кому-то платят деньги. Но так или иначе, это очень удобно для того, чтобы снизить количество машин на дорогах. So carpool, that's a choice. Cutting back on plastics and waste. How can we do it? Cutting back, напомню, это значит урезать потребление. So we can use reusable water bottles and coffee mugs. Say no to unnecessary plastic straws, lids, and bags. Buy items packed with paper products instead of cardboard. Choose reusable toiletries. Stop using plastic wrap and plastic containers for food storage. And now let's go to reducing, repurposing, and recycling. So reducing значит снижение, repurposing изменение в использовании и recycling переработка. So we can use items more than once. Give away things that you no longer need. Ask your friends and family if they're interested in items that you don't want to keep. Save and reuse packaging. Use plastic food containers to store leftovers or keep old bread bags to store baked goods. Plant small plants in old cans and bottles. Make a garden, basically, with all of that. Buy things secondhand. If you do need to purchase things such as clothing, housewares, books, or appliances, you can buy them secondhand instead of ordering them new. That'll save resources and packaging. Recycle materials that you can't use. You can usually recycle cans, paper, cardboard, plastic containers, metals, and glass. Naturally, you don't do it on your own. You bring them to the special shops. Compost food waste instead of sending it to the landfill or incinerator. Naturally, that doesn't come easily for the city dwellers, but if you live outside of the city center or just even outside of the city in perhaps your own house, you can use that. So you would be given back to the environment, and having a compost pile will improve soil for gardens. With all of that, we can talk about renewable energy. So up until now, most of the energy we used came from coal, oil, and gas, which are all fossil fuels. But this will not last forever, and burning them is a major cause of climate change, as well as smog. Many countries are now choosing to use renewable sources for their energy needs. Solar energy from the sun, wind power from turbines, hydroelectric energy from rivers and seawater, and geothermal power, taking heat from the center of the earth, are the main sources of renewable energy. And there are some countries like Iceland or Costa Rica, and they are leading the way. For example, Iceland is nowadays getting 100% of its energy from these renewable sources. And naturally, let's finish with talking about public transport, which is an amazing thing for environment. Transport has a large environmental impact. People use cars more, and especially in urban areas. And this is one of the largest growing sources of carbon dioxide in the world. Private transport contributes to air pollution and global warming. And taking flights, actually, it's also a big problem. As more and more people fly, greenhouse gases increase. In fact, emissions from aviation in Europe increased by 87% between 1990 and 2006. By using public transport, for example, buses, trains, or metros, or cycling in cities, emissions from urban transport could be cut by more than 50%. Using trains for longer journeys is an alternative to flying, and it reduces the environmental impact, often by as much as 90%. And for some journeys, it's just as quick. For example, if you'd like to go from Moscow to St. Petersburg or vice versa, it'll take the same amount of time, the same amount of money, but 90% of emissions less if you go there by train. So, we came to the task. По окончанию вашей лекции вам необходимо будет выполнить задание. Нужно сделать презентацию в формате PDF или PowerPoint и к ней обязательно речь или эссе в формате Word на тему Social and Ecological Issues. В этих презентациях и эссе нужно будет разобрать все вопросы, которые вы сейчас видите на экране. What can you say about the present ecological situation? Что вы можете сказать по поводу того, в каком виде сейчас находится наша экология? What are the biggest issues now, and what issues will arise in 10 years? Какие сейчас самые большие проблемы в экологии и в мире, и какие проблемы возникнут через, скажем, 10 лет? How eco-friendly is your country? What do you know about other countries and their ecological support? Насколько экологична и дружелюбна к природе ваша страна? И что вы знаете о других странах? И по поводу того, как они борются с глобальным потеплением и другими проблемами. Do you personally worry about environment? And what can you do every day to help the environment. Как насчет вас и вашего отношения с экологией, и что вы делаете или хотели бы делать для того, чтобы улучшить нынешнюю проблему? Если у вас остались какие-то вопросы, то вы, разумеется, можете проконсультироваться с литературой, которую вы видите на экране, или которая у вас имеется на руках или в интернете. И большое спасибо за внимание. Thank you for your attention. Take care.